I already actually read the reading. We'll go back to it later for review. Pero ito po siguro yung one of the more famous neighbor tandems in the comic book world. And kung sa totoong buhay man, feeling nyo kayo si Mr. Wilson na merong nangungulit sa inyong kapitbahay, we hope that after this talk, you will find that loving your neighbor should not be something that will drive you crazy. So, to review, let's go through the greatest commandment again. So, because loving God was the first commandment, I'll skip over to the next, verse 31. The second is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than this. So kung nung panahon ni Moses, meron pong 10 utos, sa panahon ni Jesus, ginawa na niyang 2 lang. The whole law is summed up in these 2 greatest commandments which form the core of Christian life. Love God and love your neighbor. Please note, and po yan, because these 2 must go together. So actually, when yung 10 commandments, kala nyo dumali, naging 2 na lang, it's actually still quite difficult since in the first letter of John, chapter 4, verse 20 to 21, it says, if anyone says, I love God, but hates his brother, he is a liar. For whoever does not love a brother whom he has seen, cannot love God whom he has not seen. This is the commandment we have from him. Whoever loves God must also love his brother. So while loving God is the greatest commandment, it would not be enough to love God if you do not do the second, which is to love your neighbor. All or nothing po ito. Before we can expound on what Jesus meant by the word love, however, let us first discuss what Christian love should not be. Christian love is not always having positive feelings. Kadalasan, akala po natin in love na tayo when we have this warm feeling inside of us. When we have feelings of sexual attraction, personal affection. Diba? Tito, in love na po ako. But as I mentioned earlier, while these things I mentioned can be elements of love, they cannot be the sole elements of love. You cannot base love on feelings and emotions alone. And the true love should actually remain even when the positive feelings change or the positive feelings fade away. True love should still remain. Christian love is also not about always saying yes. Nabanggit ko na po ito kanina, hindi po tayo kailangan maging macho para masabi na tayo ay nagmamahal. If you are trying to please everybody or trying to please someone all the time, it is not necessarily a good foundation for love. Kapag minsan hindi sumunod ang isa, mabubuot na ba yung relasyon? Buti mo lang sumagot. Christian love is not defensive. Para sa ibang tao, ang pagmamahal ay parang isang investment. Pag may investment, merong returns. Diba? Pero pag may returns, meron ding risks. Hindi sumagot yung bankera sa likod. Pero syempre, when there are risks, some people tend to be defensive. No? We all know how it feels to be betrayed or to lose someone we have invested in. No? When somebody dies, a loved one dies, or a loved one betrays you, it can hurt very deeply. And at the back of our minds, if we always start thinking and looking out, trying to avoid pain in a relationship, trying to avoid difficulties and trials, we cannot love fully and genuinely. That would be a conditional kind of love. So brothers and sisters, true love can never be painless. Christian love, however, you can endure that pain through unwavering commitment. And through Christian love, injuries can be healed through patience and forgiveness. Christian love is also not self-seeking. The focus when loving should not be ourselves, but others. Again, we go back to the investment analogy. You cannot be investing and seeking a return when you are loving as a Christian. By its nature, Christian love is ready for self-denial, and it is ready to receive nothing in return. Christian love is also not manipulative. Ano po ba yung manipulative love? This is when love is given as a form of reward, or when love is withdrawn as a form of punishment. Unfortunately, as human beings, love is so powerful that we are tempted to use it this way. No? Pag galit tayo, hindi na kita love. Pag matsunurin ka, love kita. No, but this is a conditional kind of love and is dependent on whether the party is meeting your expectations or not. And that is not what Christian love is all about. So, we have mentioned what Christian love is not. Then I guess the next question is, what is Christian love? In John chapter 15, Jesus spoke about love as follows. There are two important points. I'm sorry. As the Father, basahin po na natin. As the Father loves me, so I also love you. Remain in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and remain in His love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. This is my commandment. Love one another as I love you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. So, in this passage, there are two important points being raised by Jesus. First is that Christian love is necessarily connected with keeping God's commandments. Therefore, Christian love is not compatible with sinning. It is difficult to sustain Christian love for others if we are living a double life. So, kadalasan po, we find ourselves justifying our sinful actions by saying, for example, aside from yung binanggit last week na what's wrong with that, sometimes sasabihin natin, wala namang nakakakita. Wala namang nakakaalam. Diba? What he or she doesn't know won't hurt him or her. Pero ganun po ba yun talaga? Brothers and sisters, sinful acts do not become harmless just because no one is looking. A crime is still a crime, whether the perpetrator is caught or not. So, we have to keep this in mind. Sometimes, we have the standard of, or we try to justify our sinful acts by saying it's not harmful, wala namang sasaktan, wala namang kakaalam. Pero actually, by the very nature of not letting somebody know, by the very nature of kung masasaktan siya pag nalaman niya, then that actually is already something very harmful when you do it. The second important point is the other commandment given to us, that we love one another as Jesus has loved us. Again, Jesus is acting as the model for us to follow when it comes to loving others. And how did Jesus love? By a self-sacrificial love. Jesus took loving others, however, beyond simple sacrifices, such as giving time, imparting wisdom, or praying for others. He actually said that the kind of love we should emulate is that in which we are willing to die for others, just as He did. Kaya po ba natin yun? Medyo mabigat po. But in reality, hindi naman po lahat tayo ay may calling na mamatay para sa ating mga minamahal. Not all of us will die like a martyr or like a saint, dying for our brothers and sisters, our fellow Christians, or dying for the Lord. So let's take a look at other examples that Jesus gave to demonstrate how to love others. Alam niyo na siguro yung kwento ng washing of the feet. Normally, re-reenact po ito sa simbahan kapag Holy Week. Kaya po, kahit Huwebes Santo na, buhay po yung negosyo ng mga nagpe-pedicure tsaka nagki-cleaning. But anyway, nung lumapit si Jesus, nung turn na ni Simon Peter, ayaw ni Simon Peter magpahugas ng paa. Sabi niya kay Lord, hindi pwede, Lord. You will not wash my feet. Bakit? Because there was a Jewish tradition. And the Jewish tradition was, the one who would do the washing of the feet would be the youngest slave in the house. But here was Jesus, their teacher, their master. And He was washing their feet. Kung kayo po ba lapitan ng boss nyo sa trabaho, sabihin, hugasan ko yung paa mo. Papayag ba kayo? Oo! Oo, di ba? Siyempre naman. Ako nga tatanungin ko pa, boss, saan foods pa tayo? Anyway, this is what happened after Jesus had washed the feet of the disciples. From John chapter 13, verse 12 to 15. So when He had washed their feet and put His garments back on and reclined at table again, He said to them, "Do you realize what I have done for you? You call me teacher and master, and rightly so, for indeed I am. If I therefore, the master and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash one another's feet. I have given you a model to follow, so that as I have done for you, you should also do." So, sino po mauna? Pakihugasan na po yung paa. Yung example po ni Jesus na binibigay dito is a demonstration of service love. Christian love is actually service love. And He tells His disciples and us to do likewise. Kaya po bilang mga Kristiyano, we should be ready and humble enough to serve others as a manifestation of Christian love, without having any bias as to those who we are to serve. The best example of service love actually is happening around you right now. You have your service team serving you each and every week. Weeks before you even first set foot here, they were already preparing, inviting participants, inviting speakers. And inviting speakers is a very difficult task for your service team. Bago may mo, medyo mahirap. And also inviting participants. No? So, and each and every week, they come here very early. Each and every week, they come home late. They have their own lives to live also, but each and every week they stop, they pause, and do this service for you as an expression of their love for you and their love for God. Aside from the examples given to us by Jesus, St. Paul, in his first letter to the Corinthians, also gives us a very good guide on the characteristics of Christian love. Siguro karamihan po sa inyo, narinig na ito sa isang kasal na pinuntahan nyo, o baka nga ito pa yung reading nyo sa kasal nyo. But anyway, let's go through it. From 1 Corinthians chapter 3.